Hey friends, welcome to the Plaidx2 channel. My name is John. On this channel, we talk all things physical media, so movies, music, and books, that kind of thing. Go ahead and subscribe down below for more of that kind of content. Well, friends, this is episode number 20 of the 5. I wasn't sure if we'd ever hit 20, but here we are at 20. And I was going to just plan on doing, scheduling another guest to come in and do an episode with me for 20. But my friend KB reached out to me a little while ago, and he said he had an idea for episode number 20. He said, why don't you go through the 20? And he said he would ask the questions, and I will go through it. I shared that idea with my wife. We both had a good laugh. We said, you know what, that'd probably be a lot of fun. So anyway, that's what we're doing, friends. I am going to go through the 5 myself, and my channel will be taken over by KB himself from KB Loves Movies, who has a fantastic channel. You should check out all the links below for all of his content. Now, this is technically part 2. We had a conversation on his channel. You can find that there. The link will be below. And this is kind of the continuation or part 2 of that conversation where we dove into the 5 and I shared all of my picks. And so anyway, this was a lot of fun. It was really strange not being the one in control of the conversation and leading the questions, to have to respond, but it was a ton of fun and I was excited to share my picks, how I would answer those 5 questions. So anyway, I want to say a huge thank you to KB for doing this. And friends, I hope you enjoy it, episode number 20. And thank you to everyone who's been in an episode, all 19 guests so far. And it's been a lot of fun. So anyway, friends, this is episode number 20. Hope you enjoy it. And it is the dumbest premise of a movie. He's trying to get his stepdad heart
just
surgery.
Thinking about it.
He's trying to raise money to get a heart surgery for his stepdad so he can fight him and prove to his dad that he's a man. So it's a dumb story.
Like half the task was making the list.
Oh yeah.
And I had people arguing with me, that's not underrated. Everybody knows that. I was like, no, you know that because you live with me. People don't know this one.
That's true. So KB, you now have full control over my channel, my friend.
I love the sound of that.
All right, friends, I want to say welcome. This is episode number 20 of the 5. And so my friend KB contacted me recently. He had a fun idea for the 20th episode. I shared it to my wife. We both had a good laugh and said that would be a ton of fun, actually. So anyway, KB, thanks for the idea. And friends, this is actually technically a part 2. KB and I just had a conversation, and that first part will be on his channel. Link will be down below, so please do check that out. And I'm a huge fan of you, KB, and your channel and content. So friends, subscribe and follow. So if you know this 5, we ask 5 questions, 5 films per question, and it's to get to know the fellow collector and to talk movies and to have it get a list of films to check out. And so I am now going to go through this myself. So KB, you now have full control over my channel, my friend.
I love the sound of that. How does it feel doing your own 5?
It's strange because I'm used to having a legal pad here and a pen to write down all these titles I don't know anything about. And I don't have that today. And
but you got movies.
I got a stack of movies over here.
Yes. Well, as you normally do, I'm going to start off with a question before we get to your 5. And
well done,
this kind of continues our conversation that we were having previously. So in various episodes of the 5, you kind of profess this blind spot that you have for 80s movies. Yeah. So we're just going to call you a 90s kid. That's what you are.
Fair enough. So
as a 90s kid, I want you to come up with a starter kit for 90s movies that you would recommend.
Oh gosh.
Just off the top
of my head. Oh boy. That is genuinely tough. I'm terrible with decade stuff and knowing when something came out. Braveheart, I believe, is 90s. I'm pretty sure Braveheart is 90s. If that is, it's 100% has to be in a starter kit.
95.
Tommy Boy and Black Sheep are both 90s.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah. Dumb and Dumber would be in there. Oh boy, what else? So this is one I haven't talked about the channel before, but Reality Bites, Ben
Ooh,
Stiller,
good one.
and
Winona Ryder.
yeah, Winona Ryder in there, Ethan Hawke's in there, Steve Zahn's in there,
Steve
Jeannie
Zahn.
Garofalo. That would be one that I would say would give you a great taste of what the 90s, what media in the 90s was doing. So that would have to be in my starter pack too. So I would go Braveheart, those two comedies, Tommy Boy, Dumb and Dumber, Tommy Boy, Black Sheep, Reality Bites would be great. I think good starter pack.
I'd add singles also just to get an idea of what that Seattle grunge period was like, 92.
Definitely.
Your Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in
Absolutely.
Chains days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are good. All right.
Yes, for sure.
All right. So let us start off with question number 1. So, what 5 films have you most recently seen?
This feels so strange being on this side.
I know. I'm loving it.
All right. Well, I'm going to qualify this because if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I've watched other movies that I'm not going to mention, but I'm only going to talk about the movies that I actually watched from front to back. I don't get to typically watch movies until quite late in the day. And I've into my 40s now, I regularly fall asleep if I watch a movie starting too late in the day. So all of these I've watched through fully. So I won't mention the other ones I haven't. So this one is a weird one for me because I don't like musicals. But I saw this at a thrift store for $1. It had the slip. I picked it up. I love the lead, and I absolutely love this movie. And it's The Greatest Showman. I'm not into musicals, and I want to see him with claws and a beaver. But as a father, and it connected with me on that level, and it connected with me on if anyone's ever tried something, and we've all tried and failed something. But if you failed at something and it pushes you to even think about what would you do with that failure, you can just quit, give up, and just do whatever, or you can continue to push. And then I did like, my daughter loves the music. She's heard the music too, and the music's great.
My daughters love it too.
Yeah, and I did also love the bringing everyone who is so different together, and they did something together. And I know in the film, he might, you could say, well, did he exploit them for his own benefit? You know what I mean? But I think there was a genuine, at least in the film, I don't know about the real human being, but in the film, a genuine, let's do this thing together kind of a thing. So yeah, I'm not into musicals, but I enjoyed that one.
Nice.
Yeah. Next would be, I was told, if you're going to watch this, you have to crank the volume. So I waited till my family wasn't home, and it was like $5 on Amazon. So I picked it up, and it is Tenet. I loved this movie so much. I was glued to the screen. The volume, my house was shaking. The volume was so loud. I love this. But if you offered me $10 million to tell you what this movie's about, I would be walking away without a nickel. I cannot tell you what this is about, but it is one of the coolest movies I've ever seen in my life. So, yeah. Have you seen this one?
That was one. I think that was one that they released during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I was missing going to the movie theaters because I'm a movie freak. I go to the movies like almost weekly. And I waited and I checked the theater and made sure there were next to no one there, and went double masked, and I couldn't stay away. So yeah, I saw that in the theater and it was great. Yeah. But I also cannot tell you what it's about. We could hypothesize, but
yes.
That's about it.
It was visually beautiful. I loved so much about it. So much about it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. The next one is one that I've avoided for years. When did this come out? I'm not seeing the date on it. 2017, maybe. I've avoided it forever. And I've had so many people tell me you have to watch it, you have to watch it. So I watched it about a week and a half ago, and it floored me. And it's The Shack. So I avoided this for two reasons. One,
Okay.
the content. It's about so something happens to his daughter, this man's daughter, and it's horrible, absolutely horrible. And so I didn't want it for that. After having kids, I don't want to see anything about kids being hurt or anything. So I avoid that stuff. And so it's about that. And then the second thing, it is a faith-based film, which that I don't have issue with. But a lot of times faith-based films, budget-wise, they're pretty cut. They're stream. And so so that's tough to watch sometimes when it's just the quality is low. And then the other thing is theologically, I sometimes struggle with a lot of faith-based films in that I feel as though it didn't go very deep. It was surfacey or a caricature of what I think it should be. And so, so for those two reasons, I was really nervous about this. And this was so good. I was nervous about, I knew that they would, because it's a faith-based film, address the question of where is God in the middle of your suffering?
Yeah.
The question I thought they'd avoid was, where was God when your daughter was going through what she went through? And they didn't. And to me, that's the more difficult, painful question.
Yeah.
And they ended up addressing a bunch of questions that I didn't think they were going to touch. And that really impressed me. And you still would walk away from the film going, but what about? But they touched on a lot of things that are important. And then the cast is Sam Worthington, Octavia Spencer, and Tim McGraw. So it's a great cast. I avoided it like crazy. I think I cried 70% of this movie. I was a mess, emotional train wreck. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Next, I loved this so much. Criterion 1942, Spine 742, The Palm Beach Story. Claudette Colbert and Joel McCrea. It's a Preston Sturges film. I love Claudette Colbert. It would be for me, Jean Arthur, Claudette Colbert. And this was so fun. And I would say this edition also has special feature with Bill Hader, most popularly from Saturday Night Live. And it was great. This was so fun. So fun.
I remember when they brought that out on the Criterion, because I think he did one of their In the Closet videos.
Oh, that's right.
And I guess it was to coincide with it. And they also let him do his playlist or what have you. So I was trying to figure out the connection, but that makes a lot of sense. I haven't seen the Criterion, which means I haven't seen the movie in years. But it'd be a good one to revisit.
It is awesome. The ending is ridiculous. And which, as Hader says in the special feature, is a classic move from Preston Sturges. So the next one, the last one of the five, this is from 1940, also Preston Sturges film, is Christmas in July. And this was a cool little film, kind of a sweet story. This fella gets duped. Have you seen this one?
Long time ago. It's like long enough that I might as well say I've never seen it. I need to see it again.
So this one is a ridiculous story. It's fun. It's a ridiculous story. This one is an earlier film. This is 43, 42. This is 40. So this poor guy, he goes into a contest to do the slogan for a coffee company, and guys in his office pull a prank on him and send him a letter that looks like an official, hey, you won the $25,000. He goes off and buys his wife stuff, people in his neighborhood who are poor and struggling, family. He just like gives it to everyone else, buying for everyone. And then he finds out he never won. He was duped. So it's kind of about
that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. So it's kind of how he navigates it emotionally and just financially. And so it's a fun movie. I'd recommend it. Yeah.
Nice.
It was good.
Yeah. Preston Sturges bordered on the zany during the 40s.
Yeah.
With a lot of his titles. So that's good. Two good ones there. All right. Question number 2, moving on. What 5 films do you have your earliest memories from?
All right. So the first one is Indiana Jones. In particular, it would be The Temple of Doom.
So the second one.
Yes. And I remember it clearly because the heart. the guy reaching into that guy's chest. And I remember as a kid watching it going, I don't know if I'm allowed to watch this stuff.
It was PG.
It was PG. I think in the 80s, everything was PG. So, and I would have watched this as a VHS. It was taped off the TV with all the commercials. That's how I would have seen this film in particular. But I just remember loving Harrison Ford, thinking that guy is so funny and he is so cool. And the adventure was amazing. And as a kid, yeah, it just had everything you want in a great adventure film.
Yeah. The reason I made the joke about PG is because between that and Gremlins is what got the PG-13 rating created.
Did it really?
Yeah, because PG movies that had a little bit too much violence, but not enough to consider it R, there was just a chasm there. They needed something in between. So PG-13 happened, and then years later, to reach a broader audience, they took a lot of rated R movies and cut them down and made them PG-13. Like a lot of the Fast and Furious movies, they're supposed to be rated R, but they cut a couple scenes where there was supposed to be blood, show no blood, and then, get it to a large teenage audience, young adult audience. So, yeah, that's the birth of PG-13 right there in your hands.
Glad I have it in the collection.
Same here.
Yeah. Next one would be the original Star Wars trilogy. Again, I had the VHS tapes that were taped over other things with all the commercials in the middle. That's how I saw these films originally. And again, Harrison Ford, seeing him going, that's the coolest guy in the world. And he's so funny and adventure. So yeah. And these would have both been with I would have very vivid memories of watching with my dad and going, oh man, this is just cool to watch this with my dad because he likes it. And so it wasn't a kid movie. It was me and my dad, and he's into it kind of too. So yeah. So those are both be big for me. The next three are not as classic, but they're classic nonetheless. The first one would be Ernest Goes to Camp and Jim Varney. So I remember seeing this as a kid. And as a kid, we talked about slapstick humor and children find it funny. I remember just thinking this guy was absolutely hilarious. And the facial expressions. And at the same time, he won your heart because he was just bullied this whole film by all the kids at camp. And so you felt for him, and he was funny. Which leads me to the fourth one, which is Ernest Saves Christmas, which I saw in theater as a kid and loved. So Ernest had a big role in my life as a child. This I wouldn't watch every Christmas, but I would watch this probably every 2 or 3 Christmases. Yeah, my daughter has not yet gotten into Ernest, but hopefully someday.
That time is coming.
And then the last one is one that my brother and I had this might have been the only movie we actually had an official copy of. And we had a copy of this one, and we're both in our 40s now. And there might not be a week that goes by where one of us doesn't drop a line from this movie at each other and the other one laughs. And it is the original Turtles movie.
Nice.
He and I watched this thing so much. And so we've memorized the whole thing, and we will just throw lines to make each other, the other one laugh. So yeah, this was like a cool, my brother and I are only 14 months apart. I'm the older brother. So we grew up best friends, and
that's awesome.
Yeah. So this is a fun movie for he and I.
I have a buddy I used to work with, and we were born in the same year. So, same experiences growing up, even though, grew up in different parts of the country. So we used to have music battles where we would have our computer speakers, across from each other's cubicles, and we'd one up each other with one song. So he'll play a Genesis song, and I'll put on a Police song, and he'll put on a Grace Jones song, and I'll put on a better Grace Jones song. And we went through this period where we would just speak just in movie quotes, and the whole thing is the other person had to get it. And the other day with the thing with the new pictures of the galaxy and all that, he sent me one, and it had the three villains from Superman 2 in the prism, kneel before
Yeah,
Zod. And I lost it because I'm like, okay, you win.
that's
You
good.
win. So it's funny to have that shared experience with someone where you could like quote a movie or, just
Absolutely.
have that even, as you get older and older, it's like, it just brings you back to being a kid again and watching it, over and over, or just having that
Definitely.
experience.
Yes, that's my brother and I. That's the film we would go to. Yeah.
That's fun. Okay. Number 3, what 5 films have had the greatest impact on you emotionally, worldview, altering your life perspective?
Well, I wanted to do. I didn't want to like have double films on certain one, but I would say that Shaq movie. Yeah, I was deeply emotional that whole time, and so it'd be great. It's a great film on the grief, faith, questioning. Yeah, so I would say that one would be there, but I'm going to choose 5 different films.
Okay.
Yeah, so the first one is The Beaver, Mel Gibson and Jodie Foster.
I've never seen that.
It is incredibly powerful. So when I first heard of this movie, I saw a still from the set of Mel Gibson running down the street with a beaver puppet on his hand. And I instantly thought, this is going to be the dumbest thing ever. This movie is so powerful. It's about mental health. It's about someone who is broken down mentally, Mel Gibson. And the only way he has learned to cope is through this puppet. All communication, if he's doing it through this puppet, he can communicate fine with his the rest of his family. It's got a killer cast. Jodie Foster, Anton Yelkin, Jennifer Lawrence, Jodie Foster, Mel Gibson. And it's an incredibly powerful film on seeing how you watch him struggle with his mental health issues, but then you also see his wife struggle with his mental health, and you see his children and how they struggle with it in different ways, and they handle it in different ways. The struggle of relationship all around, how he manages it. How do you have compassion for someone when their struggles are breaking you down? How do I still yet have compassion for them and what they're going through? So this, especially if you've navigated mental health struggles, anxiety, depression, whatever, I found this film, I've watched it twice. It's really heavy. It's not a film I could watch a lot, but I've watched it twice, and I certainly will watch it again in the future. And then the end is really powerful. And Mel, when he was filming this, he was at the same time going through some of the craziness of what he was going through personally. And so some of the times when you're watching this film, I find myself wondering, is that acting or is that what's going on in his life right channeling now? Yeah. So this film was powerful because of the subject matter, and powerful because knowing what the main actor is actually going through as he's filming this. So this one is, I would say, an important film for me, and one I enjoy, but it's heavy.
Yeah.
This next one is recommended to me by my friend Stephanie, and I watched it and I immediately messaged her and said, this might be my new favorite movie of all time. And it's 9 Days. And this film is about recognizing, acknowledging that the fact that you even exist in this moment is an unbelievable gift, and value it and cherish it and be present in it. And I am so lucky to have this conversation. I am so lucky to have my wife. I'm so lucky and blessed to have my daughter. And the percentage chance that I get to do that is so small, and I have it.
Perspective.
Yeah. So this movie it's hard to explain. The cast is incredible. The acting is amazing. Everything, visuals. So none of this happens in real life. It all happens pre-real life, for the opportunity to experience real life. And so that's what I'll say about it. And at the end of the film, I was in tears and so thankful And it was just an amazing reminder of I should go hug my wife and daughter. I should go call my friend. I should go be thankful I have a job today. I should go be thankful when I eat that next meal. I should be thankful for everything I have. And it's so, I highly, highly recommend it. So thankful Stephanie recommended it to me.
I remember when that was coming out because I believe that it's a movie that Winston Duke did after Black Panther.
Okay.
So I think he was preparing for the role in that. And he was just given a description of the movie, just general synopsis. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. But I never got around to watching it. So added to my list.
Unbelievable. It's absolutely incredible. The next one is also a recommendation from Stephanie, and she bats 1,000 in my life. Whenever she recommends a movie, she is right. And it's Blue Bayou. And this is about immigration, but it's different than just the immigration conversation we're always having. It's about people who came into the country and who were adopted, brought into the country, and they find out as adults that the process wasn't finished or done properly, and are literally removed from the United States and are sent back to their countries of origin, even though they may not speak the language or know a single person there. And it's just like that. It's just, you're done. So it's a story of a couple, they have a child, they got one on the way, and it's about them navigating this very thing. And so this is like a legit happens here in the country. Again, I'm the dad. I've got a little girl. He's got a little girl. I'm not from this country. I've gone through the immigration process for years in being here. Not what he's going through, but I know the intensity of it, the worries that you have, how hard it is. So those things caught me. And then the end scene, it hit me like an 18-wheeler of like emotion. It just floored me, the end of this film. And so Stephanie was right. She's always right.
Shout out to Stephanie, movie chatter.
Absolutely. So thank you, Stephanie. She told me to read that one. I picked up both of those, and yeah. The next one is a film that I was told I will sob all the way through, and so I waited till no one was home, and I also geared my emotions up, going, I won't. I'm not going to, purely out of defiance. I will not do this. And in the first 5 minutes, I started crying, and I finished crying about 10 minutes after the film was done. And it's Wonder. And
yeah,
I thought the brilliance of this film, obviously it's what this poor little fella goes through, but the brilliant thing that they did in this film is they walked you through all of his family members experiencing all of this and how they navigate it with him, loving him, but also with each other and their emotions. Yeah. So I saw it through Julia Roberts' eyes. I saw it through his eyes. I saw it through Owen Wilson's eyes. I saw it through the older sister's eyes. And it just, you just felt such compassion and empathy the whole film that, it just emotionally annihilated me.
Yeah. That kid is surrounded by superheroes in his family, man.
Oh gosh, yeah.
The part that got me was the Julia Roberts part, because it was just like, that mama bear spirit, just want to protect your son, but also you want to encourage him and uplift him to get past the things that he's going through. And I'm like, how are you doing this, woman? It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is so hard. That is so hard to help your child overcome something, especially something that they can't control.
Yeah.
The helmet was his control, but
yeah.
Great movie.
Yeah. Because you do want to protect. As a dad, I want to just protect all the time. Yeah. And I don't want her to get a scraper on her knee. I don't want her to get a name said to her. I don't want her to get an attitude. I want to protect her all the time. So you're right. That movie was, it's amazing. It's good.
Yeah. Good one.
And then the last one is Our Friend. And this is a great cast: Jason Segel, Dakota Johnson, and Casey Affleck. And it's based on a true story. And it's about this young woman who finds out she has terminal cancer. And it's her and her husband walking through this. And I believe they have two daughters in the film. And they have this longtime best friend who kind of steps in to be the anchor and the strength for both of them and the kids as they're falling apart and trying to figure out how to do this. She's trying to say goodbye to her husband, trying to heal wounds, trying to gracefully say goodbye to her daughters, trying to leave a lasting impact or imprint on them. And at the same time, mentally walk through the fact that I'm dying and my time is running short. And so you see it through all of their eyes. And this was a film that I watched. I woke up, I'm a terrible sleeper. I think I woke up at 3 a.m, 4 a.m, and I downloaded it from Amazon Prime onto my phone. And so I plugged it in, and it was snot and tears all over my face, trying not to wake up my wife while I got my headphones in watching it. And it's amazing. I have no idea why this doesn't have a Blu-ray release.
Strange.
It's an unbelievable film, especially with the cast. It's an incredible cast, a great film on, again, journeying through grief and death, compassion, walking with other people as they struggle and break down. It's great. Yeah. So those are the 5, all highly emotional films for me.
Very. I was just about to say, you brought out some emotional films there. Wow. All right. So to go from that to our 4th question, what are 5 films that you consider to be underrated?
All right. I've talked about this one on the channel before. Green Streetooligans is amazing. I rented this from a Blockbuster years ago, and the next day I went out and bought it. And
wow.
Elijah Wood's in it, a young Charlie Hunnam's in it, and it's a fantastic film about loyalty to your friends, about standing with your friends, not backing down. And some people might see this as just a goofy, not goofy, but it's about firms in the UK with the soccer teams, with football in the UK, that they travel around with the team, and they end up in huge fights afterwards because they're for their team. And
the fan and fanatic.
Yeah, but this is not about that. That's a part of the film. This really is about, if I'm saying I stand with you and for you, I do. And if I die for that, I die for that. But if I'm a loyal friend, I'm a loyal friend to the very end. And this is, it's killer. It's great. Highly recommend it. It doesn't, I think, get a Blu-ray release in Germany. We don't have a US Blu-ray release, and it deserves it, in my opinion. The next one is, it's a Scorsese film. I know you're a Scorsese fan. And it is Bringing Out the Dead with Nicolas Cage.
Why doesn't it have a Blu-ray?
No idea. This should be, in my opinion, a Criterion film, or at least on that level. It should be getting a boutique release. This is, I'm not the biggest Nick Cage. I don't not like him, but I don't have a ton of his films.
Right.
But I thought he was unbelievable in this. This is a fantastic film on burnout and being pushed till you have nothing left to give. And I know people who are EMTs, and that is where they end up. But it's not just EMTs. Regardless of what profession you're in life, or just navigating life itself, we all know what it is to get pushed to the very brink and you're burned out. This is a great film on that. The cast is incredible. Nick Cage is incredible. It's filmed in a really cool way. It's a great Scorsese film. I wish it had a Blu-ray release. Maybe something.
When Paramount announced their deal with Kino Lorber, that was like the one I put at the top of the list. I'm like, please let that come out on, their joint venture, Paramount, Kino Lorber.
That'd be amazing.
It would be, because that's even a hard DVD to find. If you ever come across that in your travels, please keep me in mind, because I don't even have a DVD copy of it.
I'll definitely scoop you up a copy.
I might have to hit up Pam for that one.
It's so good. The next one is one that I didn't know about until I found it at a Goodwill. And and so I grabbed it because I liked the lead actor, and I think it's a brilliant film, and it's Patterson. And so I don't ever hear anyone talk about Green Streetooligans. I find the occasional movie fan talk about Bringing Out the Dead. But again, this is one that I don't hear people talk about until someone mentions it. And then I'll hear a few people go, yes, that's an amazing film. But other than that, nobody I find talks about it. And this film, what I love about it, Jim Jarmusch, he's the director of it. Adam Driver is one of the leads. This film is just about life, just everyday life. And simplicity. Everything about this film is subtle. The music, the acting, the visuals. There's nothing about this. The story. There's no CGI. There's no explosion. There's no big. It's subtle, and it's beautiful from start to finish.
The references even very subtle.
Everything is subtle, and so if you need a high action film, this isn't the one. But if you want to go into something that's contemplative and this makes you think about just day to day, this is a great film.
Yeah. I have friends who are in like film critic circles, and like towards the end of the year, they get the for-year consideration releases. And that's how I initially saw that film. And I'm like,
really?
Why aren't people talking about this film more? Of course, it really didn't get any kind of accolades or even nominations or whatever. But I'm like, this is an amazing film. And every time I'm like going through and like, oh, what movie should I pick up, or what Blu-rays on sale? I always forget about that, because it's like you said, it's not something that people remember or think about, but then somebody makes a reference and you're like, oh, yes, that's a good film. Totally. I'm going to write that down. Like I've never seen it before because I need to see it again, and I need to add it to my wish list.
Oh, it's so good. And I'm so thankful I found it at a Goodwill. It's amazing to me about. The next one I picked up at the Dollar Tree. I had never heard of it. And similar to, I was nervous it could be goofy. And I've watched it multiple times, and I think it's amazing. And I've never heard anyone talk about it. It's The Good Catholic. I'm not a Catholic. And so it wasn't that got me. Honestly, what got me was the fact that they were clergymen. You have John C. McGinley from Scrubs, and who I think was hilarious in Scrubs. And you have Danny Glover. And so Danny Glover is he's the tried and true priest. Like he's done it by the book, and he's rock solid. John C. McGinley is similar to his character in Scrubs. He's the priest. He's sincere in what he does, but he also likes to go back, have a smoke, and watch basketball. He's like the guy you want to hang out with.
He's a fun priest.
Yeah, he's the fun priest. And then you got this young fella who is fresh out of seminary and feels this call on his life to become a priest. And he is sincere and devout. And while manning the confessional booth, I think that's what they're called, the confessional booths, this young woman walks in and just hops in the other side and starts talking to him, and just like as a friend. And it really throws him. He doesn't know what to do with that. He's used to people coming in just like pouring out what they did wrong. She just wants to talk, and then even kind of flirts with him and just kind of pokes at him, teases him a little bit, and he doesn't know what to do with that. And she ends up coming back over and over to just talk, and they become really good friends through this booth. He starts to have feelings for her. She's got feelings for him. And then he starts to question, like he wants to pursue a relationship, but he also is really sincere about his call, what he thinks is what he's supposed to do with his life. So it's not a faith-based film. It's really a romantic comedy that just happens to be with a priest who lives with these two other seasoned priests. And I've watched it multiple times. I think it's a great romantic comedy that also has this faith piece into it of him trying to navigate how do I do this? Because these are both important to me. So anyway, it's a Dollar Tree title that ended up paying off. So, and last
you don't
one,
get that all the time.
No, you don't. The last one is one that I found at a pawn shop. I pulled it out because I didn't recognize the title, and I saw it was a Jet Li film. And I'm not really into a lot of his action films. I don't have any of them, to be honest. But then I read the back, and it's a dramatic film, and it's Ocean Heaven. And this is one of the most beautiful and powerful films. It's a dramatic film, and I'm me see here. It's 94 minutes. It's in Mandarin, so it is a subtitled film. He has an adult son who has autism and is unable, his son is unable to care for himself. His wife is gone, and he finds out that he has a terminal cancer, and there is no one to take care of his son, and his son is unable to take care of himself. And so it's him. He loves his son so much, and it's him trying to figure out, what do I do in this situation? My son doesn't even know that I'm going to be gone. He won't even know I'm gone when I'm gone. And he's struggling with that whole thing. Who will care for him? I love him. I want him. So it's him teaching him, trying his best to teach him skills that he can use, and trying his best to establish something that will protect him in the future. So this is Jet Li in a dramatic film about him and his son and navigating death and grief and love and caring for your kid.
Did you mention that before? Has someone mentioned that on a previous episode of The Five?
I think I might have recommended it to Ryan from
Movies with
Ryan.
Yeah, because I'm like, the title sounds familiar, but I don't remember where I heard it. So
yeah,
that could be it.
So yeah, that's one that I never heard anyone talk about, and I found it by chance at a pawn shop, and it is absolutely beautiful. It's great.
And here I was thinking I wasn't going to get any recommendations. You've already given me a lot. So let's wrap this up with the fifth question, which is always my favorite one. What 5 films bring John joy, laughter, hope?
All right. The first one is I Smile, from the first frame to the last frame.
Go for it.
Makes me happy. That Thing You Do.
Good one.
This is just, it's just so fun.
It's a fun movie.
It's just fun. The whole thing is fun. My favorite scene is when they're in the laundromat. They just hear the song on the radio and they lose their mind. Or they're not the laundromat, the appliance store. And they all come to the appliance store and they're just losing their minds. And that's my favorite scene in this film. But it's just fun. And I smile the whole time. There's a few like tough moments, but they're just notes. And then there's joy again. And this is just
the music is great.
The music will keep you smiling the whole time. It's phenomenal. I have the soundtrack of it. It's great. Yeah. The next one is, all of these are silly. The rest are just silly, but I laugh throughout all of them.
We need to smile more.
This one is stupid from start to finish, and I love it so much. It's Clifford with Martin Short.
Did that just come out recently?
It just got a Blu-ray release. It did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Charles Grodin. And it is so dumb. And I find Martin Short to be hilarious. And he doesn't have to say anything. He could read the phone book and I would lose it laughing. His facial expressions, Charles Grodin is so good at playing angry. And to play it off with Martin Short's oblivious stupidity, the look on his face, I laugh from start to finish in this movie. My wife hates it because it's so dumb, and I laugh so hard. I love it. Yeah.
Charles Grodin, you mentioned he plays angry. He plays straight in a comedy so well.
He does.
That it just makes you laugh.
Yeah.
Just uncontrollably. And you don't know why. You can't say, well, it was that scene when it's just the way he plays it. He's the straight man, and you need a straight man in order for someone else to be hilarious.
I agree.
And Martin Short, Inner Space. I always think of Inner Space when I think of Martin Short.
Yeah.
So
he's ridiculous. This one we actually just talked about in our conversation a few moments ago. I have a designated video for this, and I've talked about it multiple other times, and it's Dumb and Dumber. It's makes me laugh. It means a lot to me. Yeah. So anyway, Dumb and Dumber. I really want this to have a Blu-ray release, theatrical, not the unrated. They added a bunch of stuff that I think takes away Dumb and Dumber. The next one is one I've talked about before, and it's Tommy Boy. I'm a Chris Farley fan. This is just quotable from start to finish. You can just, with your friends and family, quote this movie nonstop. And Farley, I highly recommend people read the book. I Am Chris Farley. His brothers wrote it after he passed. Chris was an amazing human being, full of compassion and deeply spiritual. And it doesn't come across in any of his comedy. But he was just a really heartfelt, compassionate, loving human being. And so in having read that book from his brothers, when you see, because in this movie, you see a lot of heart too. And even in Black Sheep, and it's a different experience having read the book. Watching this, I laugh really hard, and in the moments where he's being sweet, you're like, "That's Chris. That's not just Tommy Boy. That's actually Chris in there."
Yeah.
So yeah, this one makes me happy. And then the last one is again super stupid, and I rented this from Blockbuster. I shut it off 15 minutes in because I thought it was the dumbest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And the next day, my wife needed the car. And so I was home alone. I couldn't go anywhere. And I was like, I spent the money renting this thing from Blockbuster.
Might as well.
I watched it. And then that night I went to FYE and bought it. And it's Hot Rod with Andy Samberg.
Yeah.
Bill Hader, Chris Parnell, a great cast.
That was hard to find for a while there.
It was hard to find. And it is the dumbest premise of a movie. He's trying to get his stepdad heart
just
surgery.
Thinking about it.
He's trying to raise money to get a heart surgery for his stepdad so he can fight him and prove to his dad that he's a man. So it's a dumb story, but I laugh I think I just wasn't in the mood when I tried watching it the first time, because the second time and every time I've watched it since, I just laugh my head off from start to finish. So it brings joy into my life. It's really dumb. It will never have a Criterion release, but it brings me joy.
Hey, you never know. Sometimes they come out with some weird things, like they announced like the black and white version of Johnny Mnemonic today.
Really?
Who ever asked for the black and white version of Johnny Mnemonic? But you never know.
Yeah, that's true.
You never know.
But it's a funny movie. The cast is incredible. And it's very quotable also. So, those 5 bring me joy.
I just had 2 other questions. And first of all, thank you for doing that and letting me host you for the 5. But did you ever get a Letterboxd account?
I started one. Let me see here. I think I started one. And as I mentioned to you in our conversation, or prior to our conversation, I'm not great with technology and apps. I do have a Letterboxd account.
Okay.
I've just never done anything with it, but I do have it here on my phone.
It is a great way to keep track of like movies you watch, because I don't know if it's just me or not, but especially with older titles, I'll go through and, I'll watch a bunch of them. And unless they're spectacular or really, really bad, I'll forget that I've watched them, especially if it's something like on TCM or something like that late at night. Sure. And then the next day I'm like, okay, I did watch that. That wasn't a dream. I did watch that. So it's a great way to keep track of stuff like that.
I will say this. I didn't mention in any of these, like any black and white film, which I'm a huge fan of. I would say for the films that bring joy, happiness, any day you could throw in Chaplin or Jean Arthur, and that brings me joy and happiness. But there's no way I can pick one film to put in there. So I will say any Chaplin, any Jean Arthur does that, but those 5 are the ones I ended up choosing.
So after my episode of the 5 came out, my wife turns to me and says, "So no Hitchcock?" And you have to understand, she has a very thick New York accent. So it was almost like it would sound to an outsider like she was threatening me with a gun. Like, what? No Hitchcock? Yeah. And I'm like, which one?
Yeah.
What am I going to choose? I can't choose one.
It's true.
And I'm not just going to have 5 Hitchcock movies. We did that for a whole month. We're not going to do that again. So it was the same thing like you're saying with Gene Arthur. It's hard to just pick one, or a Chaplin movie or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was hard. Here's a question for you. If you could remember back to my 5, of the titles that you wrote down, did you actually go back and look into any of them?
I know I watched all the trailers. I always go home and eat cereal and watch the trailers.
That's awesome.
Yes, I did. I have watched all the trailers. So, and I have a list at the house because I film in my office. I record in my office. I have a list at the house in my nightstand of all of the 5 episodes with all of the titles.
The movies.
So,
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Because that was a question put to me. Well, which ones did he choose? I don't know. I'll ask him, but I don't know.
Yeah.
He might have watched them all and said, this guy's on something else. I don't know what he's doing.
No,
and I know
funny.
you've seen some of them, so.
Right. No, it's funny. I have I don't know what apps you use. The one I do use, because it's super, super simple, and that's what my brain can handle. Sort It. I have my movie app through Sort It. And so I have a running wish list there and a running wish list on Amazon. So that's where I put all the films that I watch. I usually will put them on my Amazon, and the ones that are priority for me, I keep on that Sort It list.
Yeah, I use the blu-ray.com app, My Movies.
Oh, yeah.
And I just keep a running wish list of like Blu-rays, 4Ks, even some DVDs on there. And then I use Letterboxd for a diary, because that could be stuff I rented, borrowed from the library, stuff I streamed, or physical media stuff that I own and I watch. And sometimes it's interesting to see how many times you go back to certain movies and it says, you've watched this 17 times. And you're like, maybe I need to watch something else. How many times did I watch Goodfellas? I need to choose something else.
That's good.
So
there are
good.
certain titles that I go back to that are, especially if I have work to do, or if I'm doing something that I'll throw in the background, I do have a couple of those go-tos, but yeah.
Nice. So what did you think? How did it feel doing your 5?
I do love making lists. And so that was fun. So I enjoyed it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Good. I enjoyed this part of it too. But the same thing, when I was preparing for mine, it was like half the task was making the list.
Oh, yeah.
And I had people arguing with me. That's not underrated. Everybody knows that. I was like, no, you know that because you live with me. People don't know this one.
That's true.
So it was fun. It was fun.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you doing this, man. This was fun for me. And it's weird being in this seat and not being the one in charge. So
I relinquish it back to you. You can be in the hosting seat from now on for episode 21 and on.
There you go. Well, KB, thanks for doing this, man. This was genuinely fun. And
thank you.
I had a good time. And friends, if you're watching this one, I hope you enjoyed this episode. This is the 20th episode. And yeah, this was fun to do for 20. And please do go back, check out KB and I had a great conversation, which is technically part 1 of this. So please do go back and check that out. And I'll have all KB's information in the links below.
Thank you.
KB, thanks so much, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Have a good one.
All right, you too. Take care. Right? It is so weird. All right, cool. Take care, man. There you go. Episode number 20. KB, thank you so much, man, for doing this. This was a lot of fun. It was a really neat idea you had. And thanks for sharing it. And thanks for hosting and taking over my channel for about an hour. Anyway, friends, thanks so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy it. I always appreciate you checking out these videos. If you like it, you want to hit like, go for it. You want to subscribe, that's cool too. But I hope you take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time.